ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold?
Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Watch the show live on Facebook
and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, August 20th edition of the show. 8 days away from kickoff inside Carter Finley Stadium. ECU, NC State, we are moving ever closer. HoistTheColors.net. We just had our feature up today, our countdown to kickoff. 8 days out. We profiled two number 8s, Shai Robinson, defensive end, and tight end Javante Connor. So we're doing that countdown. We're obviously counting on the days here on the show. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you got a question, a comment, a concern, all of those platforms are open for commentary. You can also subscribe on podcast and Spotify. Download the IBX Media app to catch the Patrick Johnson Show, Talk of the Town. This show, Patrick caught up with Blake Carroll earlier this week, so you can check out that interview on the IBX Media app. Also, subscribe 94.3 The Game YouTube. Our numbers continue to rise there. So we've got quite a show ahead. We're going to talk Big 12 football. Excited about that because it's probably the most crazy conference in college football. Much more exciting than the Big Ten. We're also going to catch up with Kevin Monroe, former ECU defensive back, and really looking forward to talking with Kevin because his son, Marcus Monroe, is a class of 2026 recruit. He has committed to Stanford. So we'll catch up on Kevin's summer. That'll be around 12:30 and figure out how all that went down. How's the guy from Raleigh end up at Stanford? So we'll talk to Kevin about that. Looking forward to that the second half of the show. Philip Pilkington, he's producing today. We've got interns Cecilia and DeMarco hanging out as well. Philip, how's it going back there, man? You showing the interns how it's done?
Yeah, we're trying to. And, dude, as to how it's going a heck of a lot better than it was yesterday. I'm not worried about falling asleep during the show. I was a little worried about yesterday having to talk about the Big Ten and having to pick Ohio State for the 40 millionth year in a row. But, one of the teams that I have in the Big 12 championship game is not even really one of the highest favorites in the poll, but I still wouldn't even consider it a dark horse contender because, like you said, the fluidity at the top of this conference, really amongst the top 5 or 6 teams, this can go any way. So this is going to be fun, and we don't have a long time to wait for the first Big 12 conference game because we're just 4 days away from week 0, and they will have a conference game at noon in Dublin, Ireland.
Week 0, by the way, we will pick all of the week 0 games against the line with Bobby Harvard.
Does this mean the FCS only ones too? Please no. I don't know anything about. I can't even remember what some of these games are at 7:30, but they are.
There has to be an FBS team. Now, if it's an FBS versus FCS, are those?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
but I just don't want to pick I can't remember. There's 2 teams out west playing that it's like UC Davis and somebody else. And I'm like, I know nothing about these teams.
Yeah, we will stay away from the FCS versus FCS. It's hard enough to do these Big 12, Big 10 previews. Looking forward to our MAC and Sun Belt previews next week. I think tomorrow the plan is to do our over-under picks for defense for ECU, also our special picks such as will ECU return a punt for the touchdown for the first time since, can you name it, Philip, the last time it happened?
Is it like 2004?
2004.
Yeah.
Travis Williams against Memphis. We do this every year. ECU has not returned a punt for a touchdown in 21 years. Will it happen this season? Every year I pick yes. Every year I'm wrong. And so we'll see if the Pirates can get it done this season. We'll have all those picks on Thursday. Looking forward to that. We'll also have our Conference USA preview as I don't really want to do that. That might be as short as possible, but there is a Conference USA team playing this weekend, correct?
I think there's a Conference USA game.
Yeah.
I want to say, is it Sam Houston State and Western Kentucky?
I mean, that sounds
Don't quote me on those exact teams.
Conference USA is just, some of the teams in this league now, we're going to have to do a refresher on, it is basically an FCS league.
Yeah, it might as well be. Let's see. I'm not.
Did you know Missouri State's in Conference USA?
I knew that they were going to the FBS. I couldn't remember. Yeah, Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State at 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network this Saturday. But yes, I did know they left, and the only reason I know that they left the Missouri Valley Conference is because now there's not a single team from the state of Missouri in the Missouri Valley Conference. Number 470 billion as to why college sports are stupid.
College sports, baby. Always making things more complicated. But yeah, we sit here, we continue to talk about it and preview it because people listen. All right. Can I interest you in a depth chart, Philip? I will use this as a bit of a tease for my website. Now, I have heard rumors, and these are unconfirmed rumors, that ECU may be releasing an official 2-deep on Monday under Blake Harrell.
Wow.
How long has it been since we got an actual depth chart? Probably like 3 or 4 years, right?
No, so Malcolm always hands out those packets, and I want to say 2022 we had one. So I guess 3 years. I think it's just the last 2 years we didn't have one. It was nice. Like we would always look it up and we would flip, hoping to find something new. And clearly, he was told by Coach Houston to copy and paste the previous weeks, unless some dude just snapped his leg and was out for the season. It was pretty clear what it was going to be. But every week it was did anything change? It's no, nothing changed.
And I will say, even if ECU releases the 2-deep, I would expect it to have very few surprises. Just being out of practice, I feel like I've got a decent idea of the 2-deep. You know, the offensive line 2-deep is a little bit different because they cross-train guys there. Same thing with receiver. I have released my offensive depth chart projection. This is an unofficial projection, but it is ours on Hoist the Colors. You can subscribe now to read it fully, 50% off. That sale will carry up through the season opener for the next year. All right, Philip, I'm going to ask you, as a teaser, pick one position you want to know what I have as my projected depth chart, and I will share it with you. So
I'm going to go with the place that we thought we didn't know the starter until a week ago. Who is going to be communicating with Caton Hauser under center, or going to be the center? And kind of where does that land? Because I think that is one of the most important positions, and it was one of the ones that we were the most unsure about.
That is a great question, Philip. I'm glad you asked, because on our unofficial preseason depth chart projection, we have senior Darius Bell as our starting center. And he is the former Maine transfer. He started at guard last year, the first half of the year, and now I have him as the projected starting center. I think he's going to beat out Bryce Weaver for the center position. Now, Bryce Weaver has worked at both tackle and guard as well, and so I can see Bryce Weaver being your next man up at multiple positions. But Darius Bell I have as the starting center. Drew McCullough, Presbyterian transfer, I think could play a role there in time. He's been a little dinged up this preseason, but I've got Darius Bell, Bryce Weaver, and Drew McCullough there as your center depth chart. All right, so did you hear any of that? Because I know we were working through some technical difficulties.
I'll be honest with you, no. I was making sure that everything looked good. I'm sorry. It wouldn't have been your camera just froze.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I had to send you out there and then come up with a graphic to throw on the screen so people didn't see a weird still image of you. So I apologize.
It's all good. Darius Bell, Bryce Weaver, Drew McCullough.
Okay.
Is what I have it listed as.
Gotcha.
And we'll see how it plays out. Multitasking behind the scenes. Shout out intern Cecilia for getting that handled. Rohan says, all I remember about those depth charts there were a ton of ors. Yeah, that was the thing too. It was or this guy, or this guy. So there was multiple starters at every position.
Especially at the receiver position.
Yeah.
It was always the 2-deep was or.
And I don't want to be an or guy, but I will admit at running back I've got Marlon Gunn or London Montgomery or Parker Jenkins, because I really feel like all three of those guys should start. Now, I think it'll be Gunn because he's a senior, but I think that's how the staff views it. So that's one of the few spots I have an or.
Well, and I know we can't have time to just ramble about this, but John David Baker, without saying it, has come out and said, look, we're going to play 3 guys, and he expects them to go as long as they can go, and then when they're tired, they're going to put somebody else in. I don't think they're going to have a snap count with these guys. I think it's going to be based off the down and distance, the play that needs to be called, the personnel groupings with the tight ends, with the receivers and everything, and just the game scenario and who's the freshest. I don't think there is going to be a starter. I mean, yes, somebody's going to jog out there for the first play, right? Somebody's got to, but I just don't feel like there's a starter at running back, just like I don't feel like there's a second or a third string. There are 3 guys who are going to play, a lot, and then once you get behind that, there's a 4, a 5, and a 6.
That's how it is, and I really do. A lot of times you hear that stuff as coach speak, but I do think they believe in all of those guys to lead the way in the backfield. All right, so there's your depth chart talk again. 50% off special. Hoist the colors. You can go read it in its entirety. Tomorrow I'll have the defensive depth chart projection out. A little bit tougher, but feel like I have a pretty good idea of how that lines up as well. And again, I expect a lot of guys to play there, so it may not necessarily matter who starts, etc. All right, Big 12, baby. Let's get into it. And I'm kind of with Phillip here, man. It's, if there's a conference that I just want to watch outside of, teams directly involved with ECU and the American, it is the Big 12, because as I look at this list of 16 teams, I've got my Phil Steele magazine with me, and I could see almost any scenario breaking. In terms of, he has Oklahoma State as the 14th best team in this league. Would it shock you, Phillip, if Mike Gundy had a major resurgence and led the Cowboys to the top of the league? No. West Virginia is picked to finish last. Would it shock you if Rich Rod found success in year one at West Virginia? Would it shock you if Baylor or Utah or Iowa State, who he's got picked at the top, finished near the middle or bottom? I mean, this thing is just a complete crapshoot. It was last year. I think it will be again this year.
I think you're 100% right, but I do want to backtrack on one thing you said. You said you're more excited. The only thing you're more excited to watch than the Big 12 is teams directly impacting ECU. So you're more excited to watch Temple and Charlotte than you are Oklahoma State and Kansas?
I was trying to be a company guy. Now, I will be more.
I'm calling you out on your bull crap is what I'm doing.
That's completely fair. Now, if ECU's in the conference title race, I will be tuned in for like Memphis, UTSA.
Well, that's fair enough, yeah.
Now, Charlotte, Temple, no, I'm out.
All right. That's true. And to be fair, we probably wouldn't tune into UCF and whoever else in West Virginia if those are all the bottom teams. But, yeah. No, look, Mike Gundy is going to have a resurgence. I'm going to pull my inner Brady Thomas here and tell you that Mike Gundy will not have back-to-back absolute crap years in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Let's just be honest here. He is too darn good of a coach. It is going to be the same thing that happened with Willie Fritz and his 2-10 season at the helm of the Green Wave when, let's be honest, Michael Pratt should have not been playing quarterback because he had half of a shoulder that year. But they resurged and got back. Am I saying Tulane or that Oklahoma State is going to be in the conference championship game? No, but Mike Gundy and the Cowboys will not stink this year as they did a year ago.
I am worried about Oklahoma State because he basically fired his entire staff, but they've got a lot of money there, and they've got a lot of resources, so who knows. Texas Tech, where do you come down on Texas Tech? We know they are spending just an exorbitant amount of money. And I listened to the Cover 3 podcast, part of the CBS Sports crew. Obviously, they own 24/7 Sports, so we're all kind of in bed together there. But they keep saying there's the Lubbock tax they're having to pay these guys to come through NIL, so they're paying like 25% more of what. Like basically, if Texas Tech wants to get a guy over Ohio State, they have to pay 25% more. But they are doing that because they have all this oil money. Where do you come down on, is Texas Tech a legitimate Big 12 title contender?
They have the pieces to be a legitimate Big 12 title contender, but how are these pieces going to fit together? This is one, when you look at the other teams at the top of this league that are projected at the top of this league, you're seeing numbers like 7 returning starters on the offensive side of the ball, 8 returning starters on the defensive side of the ball. You're not seeing that with the Red Raiders right now. Now, you're seeing guys who've played meaningful reps of college football, but they haven't played them together. And look, talent can only take you so far. You got to find a way to come together and be together. And look, let's be honest, Texas Tech is the definition of a mediocre college football team. They were 5-7 with Patrick Mahomes. And they had a terrible defense was part of it. Yes, the offense obviously was good, but the years they're supposed to be 3-9, they win 5 games. The years they're supposed to be 9-3, they win 7 games. And so until they've proved me wrong, I'm going to say I'm not buying into the hype. But if I'm going to get proved wrong, it should be this year, right? I mean, theoretically, money talks. So I don't know. Prove me wrong, Texas Tech. But I'm going to keep doubting you. I'm going to be a hater. And if you prove me wrong, I will come on here and swallow my pride and admit it.
I am in the prove me wrong boat as well, but I mean, $55 million, Philip. That is their projected football roster value. I mean, that is $20.5 million in direct revenue sharing, which is the max, and then you're allowed 35. You're allowed as much after that in NIL, $35 million. I mean, if you're a donor there, $55 million for Texas Tech football, like what? I mean, if they don't win 10 games, I'm firing the coach. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on Texas Tech football.
I mean, and they're going to have to spend more with all the tortillas that they throw on the field before the games. So, with grocery prices rising, those tortillas are getting expensive. You look, man, oil money, black gold.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the Beverly Hillbillies made it to Beverly Hills. Is Jethro found him some black gold? So, look, I guess if you got it, great, but there's no direct return on investment other than wins. So you're gonna have to keep pumping this out year after year is the tough thing. But yeah, I'm with you, man. If you don't win, if you don't contend, $55 million just washed down the toilet. And they're paying almost the entirety of an NHL roster here for college football. And this is ridiculous.
It is insane. We saw it pay off in basketball, obviously, with the run to the Final Four. All right, some other storylines before we get a break in. You've got Kansas State, which was kind of hyped last year with Avery Johnson. They fell flat. Can they get back into this conference title race this year? BYU, Jake Retzloff, with him in the fold, they were looked at as a potential Big 12 title contender. Now they're kind of seen as a middle-of-the-pack team. Very big questions at quarterback. Kansas, Lance Leipold has done a good job there. Jalen Daniels back at quarterback. We'll see if they can take a next step after a disappointing year last year. Second year for Willie Fritz. Scott Frost back at UCF. How does Dion do without Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders? Again, Rich Rod back at West Virginia. Also, Utah, disappointing last year for our guy Kyle Whittingham, and I believe he's already announced this is going to be his final year. So,
yeah,
do they bounce back? Any of those storylines catch your attention?
I
haven't even mentioned Arizona State. Can
they the team who won made it to the semifinals college football playoff last year? Yeah, they're a team. I'm going to talk about Jalen Daniels in Kansas, man. Look, this is a young man who's got all the accolades. He's been, named to the preseason Unitas watch list, but his mistakes. He doesn't always take care of the football. And this is a team last year who went 5-7. They missed a bowl game. Well, 5 of those 7 losses were by one score. And then one of them was by 11 points. The only game they got blown out was by Baylor the last game of the season. And I think this Kansas team, if they can take care of the football and not give football games away, they can win games. They could have very easily been 10-2 a year ago, but they gave away games late. Just boneheaded plays. And this is a program who, in recent memory, has been terrible, but historically is not bad. And they care about college sports in Lawrence. There's no reason that they cannot turn this thing around.
All right, there's some top Big 12 storylines. We'll have our picks on the other side. Also got a question from Robert about the ECU running backs. We will hit that on the other side as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday. We'll be right back.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
We're live with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in Hoist the Colors, Wednesday, August 20th. We'll talk to Kevin Monroe here in our next segment. Looking forward to catching up with him. Right now, we're rolling along with our Big 12 preview. Before we continue that with Philip Pilkington, who is producing today's program, Robert wants to know, is Parker Jenkins the most all-around back of the ECU running back field? I would say, Robert, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Parker Jenkins to 100% say that. I would say Marlon Gunn, even though from a running style, he's more of a power guy, but he can catch it. We know he can pass pro. I think Jenkins maybe is your most all-around runner in that he's got a blend of really speed and power and quickness. I think he's still continuing to hone in on his pass protection skills along with the receiving side of his game. So it depends on kind of how you're asking that question. As a runner, I would say he's more all-around. As a all-around back with all the responsibilities there, I would say probably Marlon Gunn is your most trusted back right now. But again, we'll know more once we see Parker in action in a Pirate uniform. Terry Long says, if Clark was on this team, where would he be on the depth chart? Clark. What Clark are we talking about, Terry? Let me know. There's a Javion Clark who left the team this past offseason. He is now at a different location. But am I drawing a blank? Is there a Clark that comes to mind for you, Philip? Clark?
Wyndham Clark, the golfer. It's the first one that came to mind for me. So Dallas Clark.
Let me know, Terry. Clark. What Clark are we specifically talking about? I could think of another Clark, but he does not play football.
There's that Clark too.
He says Javion Clark. Yeah, Javion. Okay, so Javion, he was like a DB, nickel safety. He's not East Tennessee State. If Javion Clark was still here, he would probably be second or third and long at nickel. So that would be your defensive depth chart, Terry. So there is that answer for Javion now at East Tennessee State. All right, back to our Big 12 preview. We talked about how tough it is to pick a first-place team. I mean, it's even tougher to pick a last-place team. Anything can happen in the Big 12. 16 teams. Somebody has to finish last. Philip, who you got?
I'm going to pick the one that's coached by Scott Frost because it's Scott Frost. The 3 things guaranteed in life are death, taxes, and Scott Frost underperforming. So give me the Knights of UCF to finish last.
I originally wrote them down as well, and then I started to look at their schedule, their roster. Something does worry me about, I just feel like UCF, even though they obviously went down under Gus Malzahn, something tells me UCF might be in for just some bad years. I know they've got a lot of support there, big alumni base. They sold like 27,000 season tickets or something crazy. I want to pick UCF last. I'm going to Arizona, though. I think Arizona, I just don't see a lot there Second-year head coach. They went 4-8 last year. Brent Brennan, they need their quarterback to regain his form. They're counting on that. I don't know. I mean, they do have some pieces back, but I'm going to Arizona, finishing in last place. So Arizona, UCF are 2 last-place teams. All right, best conference game. What you got from the Big 12? Plenty to choose from here.
Yeah, I've got Arizona State and Iowa State. This game's going to take place on November the 1st. I think the winner of that really portrays themselves into a good November and finds a way into the conference championship game.
I have Iowa State and Kansas State written down. I didn't go with it as my
I was kind of thinking that,
honestly,
do you just go ahead and pick the week 0 game?
That's a huge game.
It is. The problem is then we're like, what kind of job are we doing as media members? Yeah. Like, the best game is going to be played in 4 days, and it's all downhill from here, folks.
Speaking of Farmageddon, Terry wants to know, do we have a pick for Farmageddon, which is Iowa State, Kansas State? Stay tuned. Friday, we'll have our pick against the spread. I'll just tell you that my conference championship pick will probably have a direct correlation to this game. My real game is Kansas State at Utah. This is late in the season. We know playing at Utah typically a challenge. This will be November 22nd, second to last week of the regular season. I think this one will have title ramifications. So I'm going to go with Kansas State at Utah. Your dark horse title contender, again, I mean, any Big 12 team can be a dark horse title contender. Who you got, Phillip?
I'm going to kind of hit it on it last segment. I think Kansas finally gets their junk together. They say Daniels has matured a lot as a quarterback. I think he limits those mistakes. I don't think they make the conference championship game, but I wouldn't be shocked if they do.
I went Kansas as well. I will, just because of the same reasons you mentioned. I'll throw out another name just so we don't repeat the same conversation. I'm going to go BYU. I think, look, they play an easy conference schedule. They get Utah at home, obviously a big rivalry game. They do have to go to Iowa State and Texas Tech. But outside of that, I'm looking at their league schedule. They get an easy non-conference schedule, relatively speaking. Their toughest game is at East Carolina. I think they could be just okay at quarterback and be pretty good. And by the way, their true freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, first off, his name is Bear. Second, he's going to be wearing number 47.
Is this Hank Bachmeier's brother? Okay.
And then they have another brother with another animal name. So it's Hank, Bear, and something else. Somebody help me out in the comments. I'll look it up during the break if not. But Bear Brockmeyer, 47. He's going to roll into Dowdy Ficklin for his first ever road start. And I can't wait. That's going to be
Come on, Bear. We're ready for it. But, it's funny, and I were short on time, but the BYU, I mean, it's a great dark horse pick because, look, they're going to have the biggest O-line and D-line. I mean, they've got like 28-year-olds out there. And, I mean, if they get the quarterback situation figured out, I mean, you got to think most people had them as a backdoor national championship contender before Retzloff got in trouble. So figure out quarterback. The rest of the roster is still pretty darn good.
So you're saying that it's an illegal pick?
No. I'm saying I agree with you. I get where you're coming from.
Tiger Bachmeier. And Hank Bachmeier.
Why did they name the first one Hank and then just decided to go with, all right, now we're going to name our next kids Bear and Tiger. Yep. We should have had Lion, Tiger, and Bear. Make them like the Wizard of Oz.
Tiger Bachmeier, receiver at Stanford, according to his bio. All right, our next pick here is conference MVP. Who you got as the most valuable player in the Big 12?
Avery Johnson,
Kansas State quarterback, good pick. He was on my list. I'm going to go with Devin Dampier, Utah. He comes over from New Mexico, quarterback transfer. He comes with New Mexico offensive coordinator Jason Beck. I expect Utah's offense to be much improved this year. We know defensively they're always good. And that will lead me into my next pick, which my championship game is a rematch of my best conference game, Utah versus Kansas State. So I think they're going to play in the championship game. Who you got in the title game?
Well, by the way, did you look at Kansas State's schedule? And how they have 10 conference games?
They have 10 conference games?
I
guess one doesn't count.
They're playing Arizona as an out-of-conference opponent. I was scrolling through, and I was really confused. I was like, okay, please tell me I'm not I don't know the conferences. But, yes, they have an out-of-conference game against Arizona. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It's weird.
I mean, why?
I don't know. Wake and Carolina played an out-of-conference game a few years ago. But anyways.
Virginia and State play an out-of-conference game this year.
Yeah, I guess it was all – those are even crazier, the ACC ones. I guess this one probably was scheduled well before the conference realignment. But anyways, I think we are going to watch a preview of the conference championship game this Saturday. I like the Cyclones to meet the Wildcats.
Iowa State, Chase Sowell, could be heading to a conference title game. Former ECU receiver, now Iowa State. I've got Kansas State, Avery Johnson beating Utah in the championship. They were kind of picked as the favorite last year, fell a little flat. I think they are better this year. They were number 1 in the Big 12 in yards differential in Big 12 action last year, if that makes sense. They were basically the best team. They just lost some games due to the scoreboard, which matters. But they outgained their opponents at a pretty high rate. I expect that to continue and then to win the Big 12. Phillip.
I'm with you, and I hope we're right. It seems like every year that Kansas State is supposed to be good, not that that happens every year, they fall off the end. You could talk about last year. You go back to the Colin Klein days. Remember, he was a Heisman favorite about 8-9 weeks into the season, his senior year, and then they fell off a cliff. So Kansas State, let's finish the season, boys. I've got you guys winning as well. Don't make me look like a jerk on here.
Terry Long says Chase Sowell is going to drop the game winner. That's tough. And I will say, to show you how worthless this segment can be, I had Oklahoma State winning the Big 12 last season. I don't think they won a single conference game.
They didn't. They went 0-8.
Yep. So there you go. That's the Big 12, baby. All right, we'll have our pick for Farmageddon later this week. We got to get a break in. We have Kevin Monroe on the other side. We'll visit with him, catch up with Kevin. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
For over 51 years, Parker's Barbecue has brought families together with our award-winning whole hog barbecue and fried chicken. Tradition is important at Parker's Barbecue, and for 3 generations, the Parker's way has stood the test of time. Whether you visit our dining rooms or drive-thrus, use our on-site catering, or even use our nationwide shipping, the hospitality, barbecue, fried chicken, homemade sides are still the same.
We are the Parker family. Come in and let our family show you. This is the Parker's way.
Remember, get the podcast of the show on the IBX Media app or where you get your podcasts.
Got it. You don't have to tell me twice. I remember it exactly.
Stephen Igo and Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, Wednesday, August 20th. We're 8 days out from kickoff, ECU and NC State. And we've got one of our favorite guests hanging on. He is Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network analyst, also part of the broadcast, part of the show throughout the football season. Looking forward to getting him back on. And Kevin, busy summer for you and your family. Marcus Monroe committing to Stanford, class of 2026 recruit. So first off, welcome back. Second off, let's start there, man. Just how do you begin to describe that process and everything it was seeing Marcus commit to Stanford?
Listen, well, first of all, it's exciting to be back, exciting to be football season again. So thank you for having me on as always. But yeah, just a crazy, crazy time in the Monroe household. And I want to thank you specifically, Stephen, because, you know, you've always believed in Marcus. You were always writing articles about him and putting out his information on X and Twitter and everything. So I really appreciate that. We've always known the kind of player he was, but because he was a late bloomer, a lot of people might not know this about Marcus, but he started ninth grade in high school at 5'6", about 140 pounds. And today he's 6'4", 215. So he grew 10 inches in high school and put on probably 65 pounds or so, 75 pounds or so. And so he became a man in front of our eyes. And so, you know, a lot of people don't believe in reclassification and things like that. But for some players, you need to do it, because otherwise he would have graduated from college before he really grew into his body. And I remember the first time that Mike Houston saw him at camp, he said, I can see the potential, but he looks like a baby deer, because he was just all limbs, and now he's a grown man, and you know, he had 14 Division I offers, and Stanford was somebody that believed in him from the very beginning. And the thing about Stanford is, because their academics are at such a high level, and they play football at the highest level, they have to recruit nationwide, because a lot of kids, you know, can't qualify to get in there. And so there's probably, just looking at the roster, there's probably 30 kids from the East Coast alone on that roster. And so it wasn't that big a surprise to see them in the neighborhood. But to hear that Andrew Luck, you know, really loved Marcus and loved what he saw on film and thought that he'd be the perfect kind of tight end for them in the future, it just made a huge difference. And so we're just thrilled for the opportunity, and we can't wait for him to get up there next year.
They have another Raleigh commit, Keyshawn Elazar out of Southeast Raleigh as well. So that's pretty cool. You got two Raleigh guys going, committed to Stanford. And, you know, what are your thoughts sending your kid across country? I'm sure you mentioned the education and everything. It's got to be awesome. But any nerves there with him going to California?
I'm terrified. I mean, I don't, you know, that's my guy. I don't want to send him across the country, but I mean, how do you pass that up? How do you pass up a Stanford education? It's going to set him up for life. And he was born and raised in Raleigh. You know, I'm a Greenville kid. He's a Raleigh kid, and so he's never really been out of Raleigh. And so for him to have the opportunity to go away for college, I think it'll be great for him. We're all nervous. I'm not a great flyer. I fly a lot for my job, but I don't like flights over 2 hours. And so, you know, it just even direct is almost 6 hours to San Francisco. And so I'm not looking forward to that. We actually have to go there to visit next month. We're going to go to the Boston College home game there in Palo Alto. So we're thrilled about that. So yeah, that's the hardest part, honestly, is to have him move so far away from home. But the good thing is they're in the ACC. Played at State last year. They play at Carolina this year. They play Virginia Tech, Miami, you know, all these schools. And so they're always on the East Coast. They're probably going to play 4 or 5 games on the East Coast every year. And so that'll definitely help him, and it'll help us to go see him more often.
So Marcus Monroe committed to Stanford. Kevin Monroe with us, former ECU DB. And Kevin, I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if I at least didn't ask about, you know, ECU. You know, how much were they in contact with Marcus? You know, what were the conversations like there? And I know, you know, they took 3 high school tight ends last year, so I'm sure that played a role. But just what were those conversations like, you know, with their potential recruitment of Marcus?
You know what? They liked him a lot, and they always said from the very beginning that they liked him a lot. And Coach Blake Carroll and I had conversations kind of throughout this thing. And the hardest part about it was to hear them say, you know, we took 3 tight ends, as you said, we don't have a tight end spot available. And, you know, in my mind, I always thought, well, you know, how does this thing work? How can you finagle it? Can you offer him a receiver scholarship? Can you offer him a scholarship, a different position, and just have him play tight end? Like, I don't know the inner workings of this whole situation and how they do things now. I always felt like maybe they could have, but they wanted to stick to their guns. They wanted to stick to the fact that they keep their roster limits the way they were, and I respect that. They told me up front. And so we knew it. And so, no, they weren't really recruiting him that hard because they didn't have a spot for him, nor were they recruiting any tight ends that hard. And so you saw they didn't offer any tight ends this offseason, so it wasn't like they were selling them a bill of goods. It was the truth. And as his recruitment picked up and more, you know, of their opponents were offering him scholarships and a couple Power 4 schools offering him scholarships, you know, it didn't make East Carolina look great because obviously a legacy kid, but they didn't have a spot, and I believe them when they say that. It doesn't give me any ill will towards the Pirates. I'm a little bit disappointed, but they're still my squad. I'm an alumni. I still do radio for them, and so we'll just kind of move on. But the recruitment process, had they offered him, a year ago, there's no doubt in my mind he probably would have committed and been a Pirate. But this has worked out the way it was supposed to. His guy's playing, and he's going to go to Stanford.
And we're very excited for Marcus again. A great young man, and he's going to do great things no matter where he ends up, and definitely at Stanford. So happy for him. Kevin Monroe with us. We're 8 days away from kickoff. ECU at NC State. Obviously, we know what happened in the bowl game. We know the history of East Carolina and North Carolina State, Kevin. And just what's your excitement level as a former player getting close to kicking this thing off?
Well, last year I was super excited because I loved how East Carolina was peaking at the end of the season. Coach Blake Carroll taking over halfway through the year and going on that winning streak. You kind of saw Caden Hauser coming into his own, and the team just seemed like they felt like they were playing so well. They felt like so loose. They were so excited. Just being around the team was fun. You got offensive linemen doing punt returns at practice and stuff, and it was a whole different experience in that Pirate locker room. Now things are different. Now you become the hunted, right? You're no longer hunting people. Now NC State is not taking you for granted. They're not saying that they were last year, because that was a hard-fought game and they knew the Pirates were going to be good. But certainly they believe that you can beat them. As to where I don't know if they believe that they could lose to the Pirates last year. And so, Coach Dorn over there has had the whole off season to be upset about that loss, to be upset about the fight, to be upset about all the things attached to it. And so I'm sure. This game's been marked on his calendar for a long time, and all of a sudden a non-ACC game has become, one of the biggest games of the year for that program, because they can't afford to lose to the Pirates twice in a row. So I am a bit more nervous than I was going to the bowl game, because we won't sneak up on them this time. It'll be a hard-fought game, but they'll be ready for us.
Kevin, could that work in ECU's favor if, let's say, the Pirates? I agree with you. I think NC State is going to come out. They're going to give ECU their best shot. If ECU keeps it close going into the third, fourth quarter, does that, nervous energy, does that flip and go to stateside? Because, they really, look at Dave Dorn. He can't really afford to lose a second straight time to ECU. I don't think his fan base would like that very much.
No, I completely agree. If this game is close at halftime, I think they start to freak out a little bit, because, they expect to come into this game and, assert their authority in ACC and what have you. And I think they expect to have a couple touchdown lead or more at halftime, because that's how they feel at Wolfpack Nation. But if this is close, I do think those players and those coaches start to get a little bit nervous, worried about losing to the Pirates again, and that definitely goes in the Pirates' favor. So, Coach Logan always talks about winning the game at the end in the last play. You saw how we won it last year, the big Raji run. And so I'd hate for it to be that close at the end. My heart can't take it, but I love the way it ended. So, yeah, if you can get this game close in the fourth quarter, it definitely favors the Pirates.
Kevin Monroe with us, ECU Sports Network analyst. And, Kevin, just what are you most looking forward to seeing with this team? There's a lot of certain unknowns on the defensive side of the ball, new coordinator coming in, a lot of new corners, your position, a lot of transfers. So will that be the position you're watching closest on next Thursday?
Yeah, I am I won't say concerned. I'm very curious and excited about this defense. I think they only return a couple of starters, and it's hard to win college football games, losing so many starters. That being said, we're in the era of the transfer portal, right? So now you can just kind of plug and play. So there's lots of guys that have come in. I do like, a guy like Tegan Wilk coming back, and, an old school kind of Pirate. But Jamarly Riddle, he's the man back there. He, as a freshman, he made some plays and kind of took the nation by storm and the things that he could do. And so now he's got some confidence in him, and he can kind of, get everybody straight back there and have that confidence. But, yeah, you get these new guys, these new transfer guys like Lowry and Akins. And I wonder, what this is going to be like for them, transferring from different schools, different environments, never playing in this rivalry before, if they will step up and make plays. So, yeah, I'm very interested in seeing on the back end as well as the linebacker position. You lose some guys to the linebacker position as well, and how that defense steps up. I'm not really worried about the offense at all. I have a lot of confidence in Caton. I love, what we saw at Anthony Smith and Yannick Smith last year at the receiver position. London Montgomery and Marlon Gunn, those guys at the running back, and then also the transfer from Oklahoma. You got some players, the receiver. You got some players that can really play offensively. Offensive line, you had to do some plugging and play in there. Some transfer guys and some younger guys from last year. But I think offense is going to be really, really good. And I think early in the season we may have to outscore people until this defense catches up. But yeah, there's definitely some curiosity as to how this defense is going to show up.
Vegas, Kevin, has the over-under for wins 6.5. Right on the edge of a bowl game. I as somebody who follows the program closely, I would agree with that. Specifically, given the schedule, you look at it at State. Obviously, you got to go to Coastal, which is a tricky game. BYU, Army, Tulane. Those are 5 of your 6 first games. I think if they can get through that stretch in good shape, both health-wise and mentality-wise, they could go on a run the second half of the year. Just I don't know. What are your general expectations, especially with this early schedule being pretty tough?
Yeah, I've always said that when you get your program to a spot to where you get used to winning, I think bowl games become the floor. Right, so you come into a season saying we have to win 6 games and go to a bowl. There's no going backwards from that. You can't afford to have these 5-win, 4-win, 3-win seasons. So I think 6 is the fair place to start, and then depending on how the schedule shakes out, can you get 7? Can you get 8? Can you get 9? And that's what we saw a year ago. We saw that a few years ago as well. Getting to the 8-win mark. And so that's kind of the expectation. I'm somewhere in that 6-7 win mark because of the schedule looks pretty tough. I expect them to be competitive. It all lies in this defense. This defense can come out and stop people. Blake Harrell has been a solid defense coach for the Pirates for a while now, and so I think he'll get these guys ready to go. Love having Magazoo, coaching the secondary back there and being part of that. And so I think this defense can be good. They just have to prove it. And so if you start at that floor of 6, and if the defense comes out playing well early and you find a way to get 3 of these first 5 or somewhere in that neighborhood, then you start thinking, okay, we can go through this conference and do well, and maybe we're an 8-win team or more. So, yeah, I think it all is going to lie on this defense.
He is Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network. Last thing for you, Kevin, do you know at this point the plan, obviously for broadcast? I know you've done mainly the home games the last few years, and Andrew Bays has done the road games. Is that still the plan? Any idea what that'll look like for the broadcast?
That is the plan. We did talk a little bit about potentially doing all 3 guys for the opening game against State, and then my youngest son, who's a rising freshman, is on varsity now, and he's going to be starting on varsity as a freshman, which we're super excited for him to get his high school career going. And because it's Labor Day weekend, they're actually playing on Thursday night on the 28th, and so I'll be at his game. I won't be able to do the 3-person broadcast, so it'll stay being Bays for all the away games. And I'll do all the home games, and more than likely, if things shake out the way they're supposed to, and signing day, and Marcus ends up, going to Stanford, then it'll be my last season in the booth because I want to be traveling to his games on Friday nights for Saturdays or whatever. So I'm excited about this season. I think it's my 24th season, either on the sideline or in the booth. So I've had a great career doing this, and hate to see it come to an end. So I'm very excited. I'll take every game. I'll do every game like it's going to be my last, and just excited to be back in the booth.
He is Kevin Monroe. Kevin, awesome to talk with you as always, man. We'll continue to visit with you throughout the season. Again, congrats to you and your family with Marcus, and looking forward to his future. But appreciate the time as always.
Appreciate it, Igo. Always love being on.
He is Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network analyst. He'll be on the call this season along with Jim Szoke and Andrew Bays as part of the ECU Sports Network broadcast. All right, we'll get our final break in. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show after this.
Turn your car into cash at Greenville Toyota. Cash in your trade-in today. Then get new Camry just $249 a month, or drive a new RAV4 $319 a month at Greenville Toyota, where our volume saves you money.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors, with locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow-cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Cash in your trade-in at Greenville Toyota. Get a huge offer when you trade. Then save big on a brand new Corolla, just $229 a month. Or get a Tacoma, just $319 a month. Secure your Toyota now at Greenville Toyota.
You got here just in time. This is Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
It's our final segment, Hoist the Colors, on a Wednesday. We just talked to Kevin Monroe, his son Marcus Monroe, heading to Stanford, committed there. And Philip Pilkington rejoins us. Look, I mean, I love everything Blake Harrell and the staff have done. I still wish they would have found a way just to make it work with Marcus. I do understand you take 3 tight ends, and I did the tight end depth chart this morning. There are 5 scholarship tight ends plus 3 walk-ons, so you have 8 guys in that room. That's a lot for an offense that's basically 11 personnel, which means 1 tight end, 1 back on the field 90% of the time. But you know, it saddens me to hear that Kevin Monroe is probably going to have his last year as a color analyst because he's got to watch his son. By the way, his second son coming up is going to be good as well. So I hope the Pirates are early on him. But I don't know. I just wish they would have found a way to make it work with a legacy kid.
Yeah, you do. You know, obviously, probably when Blake Harrell took over, these guys, you know, Marcus probably was not on the recruiting board for East Carolina because it's kind of like what Kevin was saying there early. Maybe he had kind of been taken off their watch list when he came to that first camp. So, you know, it is easier said than done when a guy's not on your board. You really haven't been recruiting him at all. But still, with it being a legacy guy, you at least, like you said, would have found a way to offer him. And maybe he goes, hey, you know, I haven't been recruited by you guys. I'm good. But then all it's going to cost you is that phone call and those 2 minutes that it took to call the young man. So, you know, it stinks, but hey, man, great opportunity for him not only to go play ACC football, but to go get a great education from Stanford. I mean, you think of other guys from Eastern North Carolina have done this, guys like Bryce Love who have went on there, and obviously he dealt with some injuries in the NFL, but heck, he was doing stem cell research in college, so I'm sure he's doing something successful right now.
There was a time I thought Bryce Love was close to committing to East Carolina, and he ended up obviously going to Stanford, having a great career there. I remember Ruff staff recruiting him very, very hard. So, Stanford, they do recruit nationally. And, look, I don't think – you never say never. I mean, it's still just a verbal commitment. I don't think ECU will try and flip him late. It could happen. I mean, the odds of all these tight ends being on the roster next year are probably slim, so that's why I would find a way to make it work, but I'm also not in charge of a football program.
And you'd probably redshirt him next year anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So you would, and he would probably he's probably a developmental guy looking at, you know, just some of the stuff. I'm sure Stanford sees him as that way as well. But, look, he's got a great opportunity regardless, so happy for Marcus, but just wanted to follow up on those comments. All right, quick look. Week 0, we are 3 days away from Week 0 football. It's still kind of silly we do this. Like, why is there a Week 0? But there is.
It gives us more college football to watch. Quit complaining.
I mean, just why not just call it Week 1?
Okay, fair enough. That I can get behind. But
I mean, I'm not complaining about college football starting. It's a solid appetizer.
Yeah.
All right, 12 noon from Dublin, Ireland. We talked about it earlier. Farmageddon, Iowa State, ranked 22nd against Kansas State, ranked 17th. 4 o'clock, Idaho State, UNLV. Are you going to watch that?
I think it's the only game kind of in that middle window, right?
It is. There's a noon, 4, 6:30, 7, 7:30.
I guess I am. NASCAR race doesn't start till 7:30 either. So, and the Red Sox play at 1, so they'll be done by 4. So, yeah, I guess nothing else to do.
Dan Mullen's first game back as head coach, coaching the Running Rebels. Fresno State, Kansas, sneaky good game, 6:30 on Fox. I think I'll be tuned in for that one for sure. Sam Houston, Western Kentucky. You know, by Conference USA standards, this is actually a pretty big game.
Yeah. And, you know, Sam Houston State the last few years has been really good. Obviously, they lose their coach. Is he at Temple now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how, you know, can they find the same success they had a year ago or the last couple of years. But, hey, you know, Hilltoppers are always good for the program as well.
And then you round it out with the nightcap, Stanford, Marcus Monroe's Stanford Cardinal at Hawaii. And as you pointed out earlier this week, not a midnight kickoff.
Yeah,
or
what's up with that?
This is a 7:30 Eastern kickoff.
This is dumb. I mean, I'm not saying it's got to be at midnight, but why can't this be at like 9 or something? There's going to be nothing to watch after 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. Look, man, some kids are going to get home from the bars and they're going to want to watch some football, but they won't be able to because Hawaii's not playing at midnight where they belong.
This is a 1:30 local kickoff in Hawaii because they're 6 hours.
And it's going to be hot as you know what outside.
87 degrees is the
it's not terrible,
projected forecast. So there's your Week 0 action. We'll pick the games on Friday. We're out of time. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow on Hoist the Colors.
This has been Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Get a recap of this show at 943thegame.com and on your IBX Media app, on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Tune in weekdays at noon to get your ECU sports fix with Stephen Igo and Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Colors!